All right, everybody. I'm kind of excited about this video, so I hope it gets some decent views. I really do. Before we get into this one stat, we started Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Twitter, X, Twitter. So go ahead and search Sports Talk Detroit. Find us. We're tweeting. You can find links to our videos there. It might make it a little bit easier for you to find us as well. I will admit we're not as good at putting the videos up there as we are here. So, anyways, we've always been a YouTube platform first. But a lot of you have been asking for that. So there you go. Tweet at us. Let us know what's going on. Anyways, with all that being said, there's one stat that explains a lot for the Detroit Lions as it comes to the trade deadline and missing it, and also where this team is at in its development. They entered the regular season as the 11th youngest team. That's not the stat. Barnwell recently, now that we're almost to the halfway point, we're at the halfway point in the NFL season, took everyone's roster by age and weighted it by snap counts. All right. So, in other words, he's figuring out what is the age of the roster that's playing on the field. And when you figured that out, the Detroit Lions have the 6th youngest roster in the NFL with an average age of 26.4. You desperately want to win in the NFL. That's what you want. You also want to be young. And if you can find a way to do both, to win and be young, you found your sweet spot because you have a team that can be good for a long time. So why am I telling you that this stat is what is going to determine everything from what we did at the trade deadline to what we're going to do in the future to what, quite honestly, we've done in the past? It tells you that it is exactly what Holmes and Campbell have said from the very beginning. We are going to build this team through the draft. So if we are going to build this team through the draft, and let's look back at our draft record in just a second, and because it's fun to take a look at this history, both the sadness that was the Quinn Tricia era, all right, Matt Patricia, Bob Quinn, and what has been the amazing success of the Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell era. So we're going to look at that and we're going to say, why would we want to give up these future draft picks for the right to get a player and pay them a ton of money? You see what the Bears did with Montez Sweat? How do you guys feel about that? If you're a Bears fan, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that as a Lions fan? So you go out and you get a pretty good defensive end, not an elite defensive end, nothing like that. You send out a second round pick and you get the right to pay Montez Sweat $25 million a year over the next 4 years, $73 million of that guaranteed. Is that what you wanted? I get it if it is. Like, to put that opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, that's awesome. So do you want Montez Sweat over paying Sewell, Jonah Jackson, St. Brown? Like, Goff's going to be getting more money, maybe, coming up soon. You have a lot of players that you're going to have to play. And speaking of a lot of players that you're going to play, let's go ahead and look at our draft classes under Brad Holmes. But before that, let's go to the 2 classes before Brad Holmes. So Hawkinson, Tavai, Will Harris, still on the team. All right, Austin Bryant, Aruarie, Fulgham, Ty Johnson, Isaac Nauta, PJ Johnson. So from the 2019 draft class, there is exactly one player on this team, and it's a player that most people don't want on this team. Was he good enough to be a 3rd-round pick? Probably not. All right. Now, let's go ahead and look at the 2020 draft class. Jason Cornell, John Pennicini, Jason Huntley, Quintez Cephas, Logan Stenberg, Jonah Jackson, Julian Okwara, DeAndre Swift, and Jeff Okudah. 2 players still on the roster. One of them, Julian Okwara, what has he done? Right? What has he done? The other one, great pick. It's a really good pick. And I remember when we picked him up in the 3rd round, I was like, can't believe he fell to us. All right. That was the one pick when we did in that year that I was just like, yes, I like the Swift pick too. All right. So from the 2 picks, 19 and 20, we have 3 players that still remain on the team. 3 players. And by the way, if I went to just a few years after some of these picks, it would be the same. Bryant was off the team within a few years. Fulgham, Johnson, Nauta, Johnson, none of those guys ever had a chance. Penasini was gone after a couple years. Cephas was injured all the time, and then it had the whole scandal, right? Cornell never made an impact. Huntley never made an impact. Stenberg never made an impact, right? Like these guys are gone pretty quick. So now let's look at what Brad Holmes has done. And this is where you can get the confidence of, do you want more picks going forward or do you want proven talent? Here's the thing you have to remember about draft picks. They're extremely valuable in the NFL because it means you get a player at a cheap price. You get a player at a cheap price in comparison to what you would pay. So even if you get a player who's not quite as good, for example, even if, like Montez Sweat is going to be making over the next 2 years $15 million more or $13 million more than Aiden Hutchinson. So when you can keep those picks, it's massive for you. So here's what we have. Jamar Jefferson, all right, kind of on the team. Derek Barnes, St. Brown, Ife Melifonwu, Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, and Penei Sewell. Back injuries cost him a ton. All these players are still on the team or on the practice squad. I won't even count Jefferson. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players still on the team 2 years later. What about 2022? Oh, and by the way, huge contributions from Sewell, McNeil, St. Brown, and even Barnes. Big contributions, role player to really good player. All right. Now let's look at 2022. You have Hutch, you have JMO, Josh Paschal, Kirby Joseph, James Mitchell, Rodrigo, James Houston, Chase Lucas. Still on the team, special teamer in the 7th round. That's all you can ask for. James Houston had the breakout, got injured. That sucks. Rodriguez, we know what he is. He's a good player. Great for a 6th round pick. James Mitchell, sorry, buddy. Laporta's the man. All right. Kirby Joseph, starter, good starter. Great player right now. Josh Paschal, injury history. When he's healthy, he plays. Let's not talk about Jameson Williams right now. And then, of course, Aiden Hutchinson, we know what he is. Now let's look at this year. Antoine Green, Colby Sorsdahl, Broderick Martin, Hendon Hooker, Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, Branch, cornerstones of this team going forward. He gets better every single draft, it seems like. Why would you want to trade away those picks? That is why this one stat of why we're the youngest team in the league shows that we value draft picks more than we value vets. And I know what you're thinking. Well, if you get a vet, it's almost like a guaranteed you know how good they're going to be. That's just not true. How often have we seen as Lions fans, and this isn't just us, this is around the league, where we go out and we spend a ton of money in free agency only for that player not to be as good because they're older or they were in a system that worked for them and it doesn't work in our system. You think that a player who's good in the NFL is going to continue to be good when he switches teams just because he's proven he's good in the NFL. But coaching, system, age, wear and tear, durability, all these things factor in massively. And yes, the risk is not as great for a player to be a bust when you sign him as a free agent. It's not. But with the amount of money that you're paying him, with the age and the miles that have been put on his body, maybe it is. And that's why I think you're going to see this. I'm not saying they'll never go there, but I also think they're looking across the country at the LA Rams who got their Super Bowl. But look what's happening now. They had a horrible year last year. They're 3-6 this year. They're trying to keep it together under a few stars. They got Ramsey, then traded him away for dimes on the dollar. Like, that's not what Brad Holmes wants to be doing. He knows his strength. It's the draft. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. Hope you liked it. Let me know if you agree with it. And we'll see you on the next video. Again, don't forget, we're on Twitter. Look us up. Facebook too. See you on the next one.